My trip to Istanbul was one that I will remember forever. There were many historic sites that I saw that I never would have had the opportunity to otherwise, and they very much so informed and changed my perspective on the different religions that we see most prominently in our world in the West as well as in the East. The first important site that we saw was the Hagia Sophia. This site is one of the most esteemed sites in all of Istanbul and is one that many tourists come to because of the different influences that it has from Islamic culture as well as from Christian culture. This palace was one of the largest things that we saw while we were in Istanbul. There were many different bathrooms, rooms, and entertainment areas that were very well thought out and that were very beautiful to look at because of all the artwork and mosaics on the walls. The harem in this palace was one where the women would be educated and would be able to stay in. The majority of the sultan's wives and the queen mother, which was the main wife, would also stay here, and they would get their education and be equipped. The Kora Museum was once a church that became a mosque, and whenever it became a mosque, they covered the faces and the figures that were on the walls. And whenever it became a museum, they took the clay off and they unmasked all of these beautiful figures. The spice market was a place where many tourists were, but there was a lot of traditional herbs and teas that you can only find in Istanbul. They also sold a lot of desserts there. This church was on one of the main streets in Istanbul and was a historic site that was dedicated to one of the smaller religions in Istanbul, which is Christianity. This tower gave a beautiful view of the city of Istanbul. It was once used for many different things, like surveillance, detecting fires, and as well as being a prison. It is now a museum, and there are many flights of stairs to get to the top. The Whirling Dervishes was one of the most beautiful performances that I've seen, as it showcased the more spiritual side of Islam, as well as the ways that dance can be used to represent culture and religion. St. George's Cathedral was an Eastern Orthodox church and has very intricate and beautiful carvings on the walls and golden pieces as well. There are many caskets in there which represent the saints' tombs. There are many metropolitan areas in Istanbul, as it is a metropolitan city, and you can find boutique and more urbanized areas there just like in any other city. This palace is now used and called an imperial garden, but was one of the later built Ottoman palaces. There's a harem and many other beautiful places within it. The Basilica cistern was used to provide water for the city of Constantinople. It was very interesting how it had a Greek mythology background. The nightlife in Istanbul is one where many tourists come out onto main streets and go to different restaurants, bars, and experience the Turkish nightlife. The significance of blue tile showed economic stability and power. Many of the harems used it, as well as the blue mosque that we saw in Istanbul. Urbanized areas are a very popular thing, and there are many areas that seem very similar to American and Western culture. The cuisine in Turkey was something that I've never experienced before. There were a lot of street foods that you wouldn't expect to be Western street foods, and there was a lot of Eastern and more European influences that mixed the two together to create a very delicious and unique cuisine.